Thanks everybody for joining today's webinar. In about 30 seconds we'll begin. Just stand by and please remember to mute your phone line when you're not speaking. That will reduce noise for everyone and make it a little more pleasant webinar experience. So in about 30 seconds we'll begin. Great. Thank you so much for joining today. My name is Daniel Johnson. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of the Venza Group. We are very pleased to have Natasha Mays of InterContinental Hotels Group speaking today on the subject of issuing a professional improvement plan. We still have some people joining, but we're going to get started straight away. So thanks to everyone for being here. Again, if I can request that you, those of you that haven't already, please mute your phone line so we don't have a lot of audio noise, background noise, etc. That would be very appreciated. We've got a number of people joining, but we're gonna forge forward here at the 12 o'clock hour here Eastern time. We've got Natasha standing by, ready to speak to us. We appreciate everyone joining today. We know that it's terrible weather across the eastern seaboard, so those of you that are safe and sound, we're glad you're safe and sound in the office or in your home and avoiding the terrible weather that is being hit all over the eastern seaboard. We are here in Atlanta and are experiencing some below freezing temperatures, so it's even odd way down here in the south, but we're very glad to have you with us. Also wanted to mention before Natasha gets started that this webinar, as well as all of our hospitality webinar series webinars, this webinar is being recorded and they are available for playback. If members of your team are unable to attend today's webinar and you want to share the content, they can access it from our video library page on the Venza Group. So I will follow up with an email to all of you so you can get access to this webinar in case you missed some of the data. So I'm going to get started and hand things over to Natasha. We've got about 25 minutes worth of content. We're hoping to have some QA time, question and answer, after Natasha shares her information. So we hope that you will speak up then. But in the meanwhile, again, if I may ask that you do mute your phone lines, as that will help all of us have be able to hear Natasha better. So I'm going to hand things over to you, Natasha. Presenter rights going to Natasha now. Can you hear me, Natasha?
I can. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
All right. Sounds good.
Excited about hearing your presentation. So thanks so much.
Okay. Hey, everyone. As Daniel commented, my name is Natasha Mays. I'm the Corporate Employee Relations Manager here at InterContinental Hotel Group. Prior to this, I worked at General Electric, Schindler Elevators and Escalators, and Daimler Chrysler. So the one thing that I have learned along my travels is that performance improvement plan, no matter where you go, has key fundamental functions, regardless of the company, in actually delivering them. So today, what I'd like to do is kind of take you through what the key functions in developing our performance improvement plan, professional improvement plan. The name uses interchangeably. What we used as the basis here at IHG when we sat down with the Venza Group to say, okay, I need to create an actual training module which will give you a crash course as if you were an IHG manager here at IHG. What do we want to make sure that we get as a key fundamental? And it started with a paper and a pen, and the people at Venza were just so phenomenal. We're able to transition the bullets into the visuals that you'll see later. But basically, again, what are the core functions of what a professional improvement plan is and the values here at IHG? The first thing I tell people, the key fundamental guidelines to our training approach before we actually developed it is what a performance improvement plan is not. It should not be used to terminate an employee. It should not be put in the basis of just to create a termination pathway to terminate an employee. It should not be used to correct a one-time incident. Performance improvement plans are usually a result of actual ongoing coaching counsel that has failed to work when you're actually asking an employee repetitively to change their behavior. And it should not be a scare tactic. I get that sometimes is kind of like a dangling carrot. If you don't do this, I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan. Those are the key things that we start off with when we basically train our managers. In addition, what we like to do is we like to connect our expectations to our leadership competencies. Here at IHG, we have a set of KPOs, or key performance objectives, and we also have, as everybody else probably would in each company, depending on where you're at, core values that the company has, what we call leadership competencies, and winning ways. So what any performance improvement plan, no matter which company you're at, all of the actual actions should be tied to what the company stands for and what the expectations the employee is either failing to meet or not meeting. And I'd like to share quickly, here at IHG we have what we call our winning ways. If you go on our company website, the core values at IHG are these fundamentals you see in front of you. We do the right thing, we show we care, we aim higher, we celebrate differences, and we work better together. And in order for an employee to actually be placed on a performance improvement plan, that means one or all of these core functions or core winning ways is being missed. And it brings me into our next bullet is, the key to actually doing a performance improvement plan is we want to work better together. And so each one of those core winning ways has a slogan, and it's embedded in all of our walls. If you go to what they call the back of the house at an actual hotel that we own, you'll see these displayed. They're on pictures, they're on stickers, they're on folders. It's so embedded in this culture that people need to understand what the functions, core values of a company is. It's hard to miss if you're at IHG. So the importance of documentation and clear expectations. And really, before a performance improvement plan should be put in place, it should always be tying back to the impact to the business instead of the emotional discomfort. A lot of times, managers want to place an employee on a performance improvement plan as a knee-jerk reaction to a business deal gone bad or a situation that wasn't handled correctly. And it's, again, going back to the first bullet or key point that I started at the beginning, a performance improvement plan utilized to actually terminate an employee. As soon as people hear PIP, they automatically think, whether it's professional improvement plan, performance improvement plan, these people are trying to terminate me. So again, clear expectations and documentation means that you've had conversations with this employee, that you have actually coached and counseled them, and now you're documenting, and we'll kind of walk through what that means. And here, again, we educate our managers and supervisors on the importance, like I said, of coaching counsel. Again, we reiterate time and time again, a PIP should not be the first step in any process of disciplinary. And the last point that we utilized in establishing what you'll see is our crash course that we're about to go into of how we actually do our performance improvement plans here at IHG is we hold everyone accountable for doing their part. So once a person is placed on a PIP, the manager and the employee both have responsibilities in this process. Usually, and no matter what company I work with, I always get one or two managers that basically say, I put this person on a PIP and I'm going to let them go have at it. So that's really not the function of a PIP. A PIP is, I'm going to give you the tools in order for you to succeed, a roadmap, and it's going to be up to you. I'm not going to hold your hand to actually do those things. And if you don't, then the consequences are, as we probably have all heard in legalese language, further disciplinary action will ensue up to and including termination. So what I want to do is kind of give you, like I said, you'll get the benefit of a speed-through version for the purpose of being able to actually view how and what we say to our managers and what we utilize as the tool, which is the Ventures Group Performance Improvement Plan class that we actually developed together earlier this last year, middle of last year. I'll walk you through like basically what we say to our managers, and in this actual presentation there are modules and exercises. We won't go through that. I'll spare you. When we get to those exercises, I'll just talk about what the purpose of those exercises are. But for all intents and purposes, you know, going forward, I'm going to treat you as if you were one of my training classes here at IHG and I needed to give you this information. And how we actually deliver this information, we have new manager orientation that happens every 2 to 3 months. In addition, I hold webinars like this for our managers with the presentation you're about to see, or I hold in-house sessions with our managers where we either go to a group or a selective managers' clients and actually deliver the presentation in person. The actual presentation can be also uploaded on what we call our learning system, and it can be viewed with the beautiful voice that the Venza Group provided for us as opposed to mine. So it can be driven by self-driven or employee or manager-driven, which is kind of what we're going to do today. So you have to bear with me because you'll get the presentation.
Welcome to the Performance Improvement Plans lesson.
Her voice sounds so much better than mine, but you won't hear her voice. This is what an employee see when we first start our performance improvement plan. So I would say, welcome, IHG managers. We're going to now go through what we call our performance improvement plan lesson.
Using example.
All right. So what I say is using examples upon successful completion of this lesson, the key objectives of this performance improvement plan class will be to understand when to issue a PIP and who to consult with before doing a PIP. We're going to provide you specific performance feedbacks to employees. We're going to also give you the tools to be able to write a PIP that clearly communicates performance expectations, performance failures, and procedures for monitoring performance. Show you how to implement and track a PIP. And we're going to have you complete a PIP either by termination or ending a PIP. So here you see our diagram as you'll see the performance improvement plan taken off. The PIP completion either occurs or the failure to perform will happen and termination will ensue. To the left you see what is our basic module of a template of what a performance improvement plan looks like here at IHG, and we'll go through the functions of that. So let's discuss what the purpose of a PIP is. It's a formal process used by supervisors to help employees improve performance or modify behavior after coaching and verbal counseling has failed to work. The PIP should be used to get an employee back on the right track and performing according to expectations. So what are performance expectations? These performance expectations can come in various forms. They can be KPOs, key performance objectives, which you'll get real familiar with here at IHG, business rules, policies, preferences, job descriptions, and expectations can also focus on reporting deadlines, communication standards, who to include in meetings, soft skills and leadership expectations, and even items you might expect employees to just know. However, your employees should be clear on expectations and not have to guess or assume what they are. So the key question you should be asking is, do your employees know whether or not they are meeting your expectations? If an employee is failing to perform, it's your responsibility to provide that feedback. There we go. I don't know why my buttons aren't working. Sorry. Let me see here. Okay. So we're going to witness, I don't know where that is, excuse me. We're going to witness the proper communications. We have two people here, two scenarios which we'll kind of go through for our module. And our two modules and our two people, we're going to follow two people, Bob and Ted. Bob's a director that feels his direct reports, Ted, who is a manager, does not complete reports in a timely manner and has unprofessional demeanor with customers and is not meeting revenue goals. He thinks Ted should have improved his performance on his own by now and wants to use a PIP to put Ted on notice, and he could terminate. And we have Jane and Barbara here. And after a reorg, Barbara has moved into revenue manager position, reporting to a new director, Jane. Barbara was not in a sales position before and is struggling with her new responsibility. Jane has been providing coaching and feedback to Barbara about her performance and the expectations of her new role, but Barbara is struggling to adapt. Jane hopes that a PIP will put Barbara on track, but realizes the position may not be a good fit. So we're going to move through what the development of each of the 4 sections here at IHG is in developing a PIP. Again, I don't know why. All right. So the first section, The first section of a PIP is the introductory paragraph, which to state why the PIP is being implemented. You can use the standardized language shown in this example, which you'll see, or tailor it to fit the individual situation. It should only be a few lines referencing the conversations you've already had with your employee and stating that his or her performance is still lacking. The key again here is circling back to performance, as we discussed. If you cannot put that sentence in your first paragraph, then you already are not on the first step to delivering a PIP. As discussed, is one of the key aspects of delivering a PIP, because you've had these discussions before. Let's see. I don't know why my button. Okay. All right. The second section of a PIP will outline the employee's performance issues. You must clearly define unmet performance expectations. If your employee is not submitting reports in a timely manner, specifically define when the reports are due. If your employee is not meeting revenue expectations, include the revenue goal. For example, a poorly written performance issue would be failure to complete duties in a timely manner. A more clearly written version might instead be course offerings not loaded into the LMS within 48 hours of requested. Underneath each performance issue should include a bulleted list of examples of instances of performance failures. This is where your documentation will come into play, because you need to demonstrate that the failure to perform is a pattern. You should also include the impact to the business here, such as lost revenue, damaged relationships, or costly errors. All right. For some reason, my buttons aren't working. Bear with me here.
That faulty work of the Venz group for some reason. I
hope not.
Is that are you hitting your right button or?
Oh, now
right
I can't already. Let me see. Let's see.
It looks like you're hitting your right mouse.
I am hitting.
Yeah,
there we go.
like the right side of your mouse rather than the left.
Yeah, I got you here. So here, as I said, as we explained in the beginning, I won't put you through the grueling exercises, but here is a performance expectation that Bob has written for Ted's PIP. Bob hasn't been documenting Ted's performance issues, so when he issues a PIP, the PIP is vague and missing expectations. And what we ask the manager to do is improve Ted's PIP by selecting the best example to replace what Bob has written. Now on this page, I'll step out of the mode of training, is basically we're trying to now set up a format so managers can see how it was done incorrectly and how it should be done. So Bob and Ted will always be incorrect. Bob will be the manager that is very direct, to the point, and doesn't have a lot of meat. So some people will see failure to maintain professional demeanor when interacting with clients, and dress inappropriately for client meetings, or are not responsive for client requests, which those items may actually really be, to the point, true indeed, but when you're actually developing a performance improvement plan, which, like I said, we won't go through the exercises, it should be a lot more detailed in there. Right. Let's see. So what does success look like? what are the performance expectations that you're asking your employees to deliver? That's the third section of your PIP. So as you see up here, it says you should be very specific. Now that we've had detailed items as to what your performance failures are, specific examples and impact to the business should be here. Again, expectations, anything in here that's too vague will not be able to measure or have a check and balance. So if it does come time to the level where you may have to actually terminate an employee, you don't have enough meat, and so it leaves a lot of room for objectivity and an employee to circle back and say, my manager didn't like me, and that's why he or she did not put me on a performance improvement plan. Here we go. So here's performance expectation again that Bob has written for Ted's PIP. And here we go again where Bob expects Ted to just know how to perform his job properly. And what we ask the reader to do is, or the participants, prove Ted's PIP by selecting the best example below to replace what Bob has written. So here he just has, you're expected to complete reports in a timely manner. That may very well be so, but what does timely manner mean? When people ask, why do I have to be so specific? Well, again, it leads it up to, well, I did it in 3 days, and the manager says, no, I want it in 24 hours. I want it in 48 hours, or whatever the case is. It says, well, you didn't say that, so I thought 3 days was acceptable. So when constructing a PIP, you keep those things in mind. You want to make sure you're as specific as possible. All right. So what's the fourth section of a PIP? The fourth section here of a PIP should be you explain what the PIP process to is your employee. You must communicate that the PIP is in effect until further notice. Here at IHG, we don't put exact times, 30, 60, 90 days. You want to make sure, though, that that all of the PIP's objectives are met. It will stand as a guide to expectations well after the formalized tracking and feedback sessions have ended. However, at any time here at IHG, if an employee reverts back to the same behavior, the PIP will not be reactivated. Instead, further disciplinary action will ensue up to including termination. So you should point out that if your employee needs additional support, we have the EAP services. We have personal issues. We know that personal issues can impact work performance, and the EAP is a resource that can help. We caution managers not to get too deep with personal issues with employees, even if you are really close, because it leaves the door open to, I thought my manager understood that I had a divorce going on. So it leaves the door open to a reason or rationale that they have deemed acceptable as to why they aren't performing. It's not that we're inhuman, but we leave that to the EAP services. We always want to make sure that we're holding the employee accountable for their work performance. And then we do have leave of absence. We do have, like I said, the EAP services, LifeWorks. Those are the items here at IHG to help help employees with those personal things that may be hindering them. So here we're going through, as we go through, like I said again, through the exercises, we're now looking to see, you know, do you understand all the aspects of what a PIP should entail? Here at IHG, let you know up front, we want an open door policy because we want employees to know that they have the right to come to their supervisors or their managers or above. We want to make sure that you offer the EAP services. We want to let you know that, make sure that you know progress and follow-up and the frequency of when you're going to follow up, and make sure you never overcommit. So if you say I'm going to meet with you every other day, make sure you meet with them every other day. Typically here at IHG, it's either weekly or bi-weekly that you meet with the employee to talk about when you're going to be meeting. And then here again, the PIP, it says the date until which the PIP is in effect. Behind closed doors, we'll talk about the appropriate time frame, 30, 60, 90. And the reason why we don't put it actually here in our actual PIP process is that sometimes employees get to a 30, 60, 90, and then they say, whoa, I'm off the PIP now, and the behavior reverts back. But it's not something that we dangle out. So we tell them that it's until further notice. But behind closed doors, I sit with you, and the manager's HR business partner sits with you and says, what is a sustainable time in which you can see improvement or lack thereof? If you're a salesperson, it's not easy to see improvement in a week. because sales, there's a pipeline. So what does that look like? Those are key things that we talk about and we look into. And again, here it's, Jane is our superstar. Jane and Barbara our superstar employee and manager. Jane just does everything right. She doesn't miss anything in the aspect of the PIP. When you are receiving your PIP, the template will have all the things in here. You won't have to figure out or reword or rewrite this. What you're going to be putting in is the expectations and the items of where the employee has failed to meet their expectations. But here, again, this you don't have to worry about whether or not you can memorize this. It'll be given to you as a template. So the fifth section of your PIP, as we're running along quickly, is really the signature section. So the signature, some people say, what if they decide not to sign? We always tell people signing a performance improvement plan does not signify that you agree with it. It just only notates that you have actually received this. So we always tell people is do not sign this on your own. Put employees a few to sign and was notified on a specific date. That's the appropriate way to place it here. And here at all the corporate employee performance improvement plans, I'm either present with the manager or I am on the phone to deliver it. So you always want to have a second person to witness the conversation so that employees can't say something was promised or said something different. You have someone to view that. So as we've gone through these exercises, and again, like I said, I'm rushing through so we can talk about it more. But basically, we talk about is an example of what a poorly written PIP looks like. It's kind of really vague. Ted has used this to address the performance issues. He's used these simple bullets, which a lot of times is, again, I'm sure correct. Dress inappropriately, not responsive to clients, you didn't meet KPOs. By the time you get to this process as a manager, 9 times out of 10, you are so done and fed up that this is all you really can muster up and get through. And unfortunately, that's something that I have to turn back around and say there's not enough detail, there's not enough meat. So always think in a third person. If someone outside of your company received this, how would they be able to view this as the employee did not actually meet the expectations, and what were they? So Jane and Barbara, again, Barbara, our superstar manager, is a lot more detailed. Your PIP does not have to be this long. This is one of our example, kind of also took out the names to protect the innocent or the guilty. But very detailed, as you can see in here, we have examples of dates, times, when here at the top is basically the subheadings of when you didn't do this on multiple occasions. So here, failure to meet revenue manager for higher client satisfaction. It's not just one time. You showed a consistent pattern of not being able to do one of your key performance objectives. Failure to meet administrative duties for the portfolio revenue manager position. Again, it's multiple times and multiple instances in where you fail to meet these objectives. So again, as I said, Barbara and Jane being our superstar managers. But the key, again, like I said, is the final PIP should be, where are we going? Where am I expecting you to go? So before you can put an employer on a PIP, you must go through the approval process. And here, it's after evaluating that a PIP is actually appropriate, because a lot of times we want to put people on a PIP and it's not appropriate. But after we said that it's appropriate, who do you contact? So once you've written the PIP, and the PIP will be written by the manager, not me. The PIP is going to be written by you as the actual manager, because you best know your employees should not be done in an informal environment. It sends mixed messages. So you want to make sure, even if you have a great relationship, not to just take someone out and casually tell them they're not doing their job. Make sure it's done in a formal environment so that it doesn't send the message of, I'm not sure what my manager expected. And you should have immediate feedback and documenting the conversations that you're having. So what does that documentation look like? Simple as a follow-up email. It can be done by a tracking sheet. Or it can be done, basically however you decide. But whatever it is, it should have these key elements. When did you talk to this employee? What type of a meeting was it? And what was the issue? And how did the employee know that this wasn't just a bypass conversation? So we have this tracking mechanism that we give to the manager so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But you're more than welcome to devise your own as long as it has it. So here we go, where it's again, obviously, it's a short example of how tracking feedback should occur. Again, we're speeding through the exercises so that we can go through, but it goes through what sometimes managers do. The weekly report was late. That's not enough. It's not suffice enough. You need to say what was late about it, when was it due, again, specific about what the expectation goals were met. Again, hey Ted, I noticed your revenue report was late last week. Got to get that in on time. Oh, where did we go for lunch today? And again, that's reiterating and trying to give the manager feedback as to how these casual conversations happen, because they're tough conversations to happen, so you want the employee to still like you or want to work for you, so you try to soften the blow. When you're doing these performance improvement plans, do not be worrying about softening the blow. Make sure that they're well aware. I always tell people this one, and we'll speed along to get to the end as we're closing up, is sometimes I'll get this. Ted has been on a PIP for 30 days and he's still not doing his job. Can we begin steps for termination? I tell employees, please, please, please don't put stuff like this in writing, because it can be interpreted as my manager was out to get me and that's why they were firing me. So if an employee sues the company or decides to place an EEOC out there, all things are discoverable. So remember all the communications that you have. I always say any type of feedback or questions you have, either schedule a meeting or pick up the phone and have a conversation. Here's again another exercise that we have. So the final result, what happens life after a PIP? PIP doesn't always mean that employee is terminated, but if you have failed to meet your your expectations or the goals, then termination will ensue. So you end up, whatever the process is, you have to end it. You're either letting someone know that that termination is ensuing because the PIP guidelines have not been met and you've gone through all those steps, or you are taking the employee off the PIP. And when they do come off the PIP, again, we let employees know that just because the formal process has ended, we are still holding you accountable for all the things that we have asked you to work towards. So as I reiterated in the beginning, if you were required to submit reports in 24 hours, and all of a sudden now, 2 months after you've been off the PIP, 24 hours comes and goes and you stop doing it again, then it might lead to termination as the disciplinary process. Key, though, is termination shouldn't be a surprise. At the end, when someone is being terminated, it shouldn't be a surprise. They may not agree with it, but here I can tell you that I very rarely sit down and have a termination that happens after a PIP that employee did not know it wasn't coming. Not because they were placed on a PIP, but because the feedback and the follow-through continued to occur. And sometimes I've had employees sit there and apologize and say, I failed to still meet your expectations, and I'm sorry for right, wrong, or whatever indifferent reason. But the key again, it shouldn't be a surprise. And those are a couple of exercises. But it's just again a recap of what we give our managers. And I'm sorry for speaking so fast, but I want to speed through it as quickly as possible to leave time for questions and answers. But when in developing this performance improvement plan class, it wasn't to replace the coaching counsel that my job actually gives to employees and managers, but to actually educate them on what it means to place someone on a PIP and what it takes to actually do that. Because if for a corporate employee relations manager, the influx when it's just me that comes in to actually have to write this, review this, can be very time-consuming for you as a manager and for me as a manager to make sure that the things that need to get done. But so far, I've been able to use this PIP class. I've held 3 in-house sessions and then 3 webinar sessions like this with at least 70 to 80 people here at IHG, and it's so great and people find it so valuable that it has now been created as a staple in our new manager orientation, whereas it wasn't before I got here, and I've been here for about 1.5 years now. So with that said, as Speedy Gonzalez spoke through this presentation and whipped through, I can open it up for any questions or comments.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Natasha. Are there any questions? Does anyone have? Now would be the time to unmute yourself and ask Natasha any questions you may have. I have a question while people are maybe building up the courage. You had mentioned a couple of times about it being about the training being scenario based, and you wanted a lot of specificity. I would imagine with IHG being so large, global, not only large in numbers but also large across the globe. Do you think that the challenges with regards to managers understanding the performance improvement plan, is it a generational thing? Well, there's been a lot of talk about the multi-generational workforce and baby boomers not understanding how to speak to millennials who don't speak to Gen Xers, etc. Or was it a cultural thing because you are an international organization? Some of those challenges with regards to specificity, do you have an idea, just a speculation of where some of the challenges are coming from?
Yeah, I think it comes with most companies taking the time to really educate what a PIP is, or whatever you call it, whatever these performance professional improvement plans are actually intended to be, because they can be used as a scare tactic. It can be used as paperwork to just terminate employees. But I think in addition, it's a combination of both of what you said. It has to do with generational gap as well as the international. So we do have managers that sit in the UK or Canada that manage employees here in the US. And when you think about the cultural differences, if you've not worked in a global organization, it becomes kind of complicated as to explaining why there is a process here and in certain other aspects of countries where you can just cut it off or just terminate. So it's educating again what the purpose of actually doing a performance improvement plan or professional improvement process. It's really to get people back on track. So I always tell people, whether it's generational, whether it's international, you hired this employee because you thought they were a best fit for this role. Somewhere along the line, they have faltered or fallen off the path, and it's not throw them away. So it becomes, when you talk about generational, I can say a lot of people in my generation and below, it's everything fast. Everything happens fast, quick. It's, whether it be the technology, whether it be the environment, whether it be, the culture that we live in now here in the U.S., things happen in the speed of lightning. So it's either yay or nay. There's not any in between. And in something like this, I always tell people, you are affecting someone's livelihood. You are affecting whether or not this person is putting your company at a bad reputation because they are a representation of you. So it behooves you to put your energy into producing the best possible person, and sometimes it's just not possible. So, there are a lot of great things that are on paper when you hire someone that on resume-wise, they look fabulous, and then you get it there and you're like, oh my goodness, what did I do? Right. So it's not just the quick turn them, throw them away. It's, okay, is this person salvageable? And I'm not going to hold your hand and do your work, but I'm going to hold you accountable, and do you know what the expectations are? Yeah. So I think that's kind of where it is.
Very good. And any other questions? Got a number of people that are in an HR capacity at
attended
hotels. I'd be curious to hear if anyone has, if this is a big departure from what people are doing now in their organization.
Yes, I might have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
And who is this?
Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Debbie Ferrier. I'm working at the corporate office of PPHC Hotel Group. We're looking into implementing the PIP plan across the company, and I was wondering what challenges you have experienced in implementing PIP yourself within IHG.
Yeah, so so for the PIP has been it was been along well before I got here, so it's nothing new.
Okay.
It's just what we did here is we just put a formalized process in place.
Yeah.
I support at least 7 to 8, I believe, business partners that service the corporation. So the challenges are people have just been doing their own things sometimes, and now roping it back in and setting clear expectations as to how this is developed and rolled out. I do get a lot of times where I get pushback of they're asking too much information. They're not trying to cooperate. When they say they usually mean me, the corporate employee relations manager. But I always say I have the best interest at heart for the company as well as the employee. So anything vague like the Bob and Ted scenario, which is why we kind of go through this, and it seems kind of, somebody says it seems kind of juvenile, but those are the type of things we get. It's like they just didn't do right, or they just weren't time, and I'm like, that's just not good enough. And it only takes, like I said, I've worked for General Electric, I've worked for Schindler, I've worked for Diamond Crest. It only takes going through a deposition. It only takes one lawsuit to know why all of that stuff that I ask people to do is so important. So it's without putting, you can get sued, or without trying to dive into that, my suggestion to you would be not to focus so much on the legalities, but understand that's really why we're not only just to do the right thing, but there are a lot of risks if we're just having a nilly-willy process in place. But it is actually making sure that it is, like I said, work better together, and we're doing the right thing. But there is something that you can fall back on to say it had nothing to do with the color of your hair, it had nothing to do with the way you walked. It is, again, to put you on target as to why you were hired in whatever position you were, because somewhere along the way you veered off that path, and we need a productive employee. And if you can't be productive, we need to find somebody that can.
Yeah, what we are focusing on right now is that we have obviously different regions: UK, the Netherlands, Germany, Hungary, and Croatia. And there are also a lot of local legislations, and obviously what you can do in the UK cannot specifically be done in the Netherlands. So that's one of the things that we are facing right now. But that's really something locally.
Yeah, so I would say I had France, Hungary, and Russia when I was working for General Electric. And the one thing I would say in dealing with the international aspects, for the employees that work internationally, just make sure whatever the consequences are match the laws. Because you don't want to put somebody through a performance improvement plan like in France, for instance, to get someone terminated, it's like an act of Congress here. The president himself almost has to sign off on it. It's just like it doesn't happen. The work council just holds you to, to a higher standard because that's the way the laws are. They're real big pro-employee, and it's really hard to tie them away. So when I would say in dealing with whatever performance improvement plan, a professional plan, whatever you're trying to develop, just make sure that the consequences align with what you're capable of doing. You don't want someone to be held to the standard, and at the end we're going to say we're going to terminate you, and then you really can't terminate them.
No, obviously. And we have our legal department involved in this as well. So that's yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Excellent. Thank you, Dominique. Any other questions? I'm curious. So the approach you took was you talked about Bob and Ted and Jane. So very scenario based. Do you find that that's helpful using scenarios as an approach to communications? Is that commonplace at IHG?
I don't know if it's commonplace, but I think in this aspect, as opposed to I've learned over the years in working with various organizations, if you're just throwing facts and how much it costs when we get litigated, it's not a good takeaway because it doesn't hit home until it actually hits your pocket. So you're trying to prevent that. So to back away into a different area of how you can train someone is when they see it in black and white as an actual scenario, like the scenarios of the people's job titles and situations. Those are scenarios that really actually happen and could possibly happen at IHG. So the whole doesn't dress appropriately, isn't timely. Those are things that no matter which department or which organization, those are clear-cut things that everyone can relate to. So the purpose of doing scenario-based training was things that they could be relatable. And so the black and white, which most people look at the Bob and Ted situation, and they say it's a ton of juvenile or that would never happen. It does happen. These examples were in here because these are things that have happened in the past, or managers do inadvertently, not knowing that they're so frustrated with an employee that I'm just tired. I just want it timely. You're just not doing your job right. I told you what to do, and they write these things. And so the frustration comes out. So we try to put people in the mindset of you could be a Bob and Ted or a Jane and Barbara, and then we give them, here's how it could look, so kind of black and white, and we go through it, and I have gone and some feedback to say they could appreciate those scenarios because they feel like they've been in one of those situations before.
Yeah. Excellent. Anything else? Anyone else want to contribute something? I see Adi has referenced in the notes to the rest of the group the process at her organization. PIP is part of a disciplinary process, and a work plan is developed based on the type of quote-unquote offense, the type of areas of work output that aren't the ideal. So yeah, good. Thank you, Adi, for sharing that. Anyone else? I hear from someone. I want to say thank you again to Natasha. It's wonderful to hear your insight and be able to walk through the approach at IHG. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time out of, I know it's a very busy schedule, to share that with your colleagues in the industry. We're very glad to have you on the hospitality webinar series. Again, folks, we will be posting this webinar, a recording of it, on the video library page of our website. I'll send you a notification of when that's available. Anyone else have anything else to share with Natasha before we close up the webinar today?
Excellent presentation. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you, Ajay.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, again, thanks Natasha so much. And next month we have another webinar on the subject of human trafficking in hospitality. So if you're interested, we'll send you some information. Hopefully, we'll get some attendance at that webinar as well. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week. And if you are in the Eastern Seaboard, please be careful on the out there in the snowstorm that people up north are experiencing. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.